Okay, so this are the few examples of what I learned during my tenure at the hospital at Eastport as a part of the pain and palliative team. Since all the district hospitals are equipped with a palliative ward, and as part of the palliative care policy of the state government, every hospitals has to support the palliative care patients with an infrastructure and also whatever can be done by that particular system of medicine. So it's since 2016 that the Department of Homeopathy has formed a palliative project, and now, since its inception, it is running throughout the state through the district hospitals, which is acting as the secondary care centers, and the referrals are done either through the dispensaries or the patients coming straight to these particular hospitals. Yes, I will just put on the video after 10 minutes because I'm right now traveling in the car. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. Okay. And so basically, on working with this team, I found that actually homeopathy has got immense potentials and possibilities in handling palliative patients. Because when we come to learn more about holistic health and the dimensions of palliative care, actually, even the definition of a palliative care comes hand in hand with the definition of actually how homeopathy sees a patient in a holistic viewpoint. So when we know that this is an era of specializations, when an individual is dissected into organs and specialized areas, and when the patient himself believes that going to a specialist doctor is the best that can be achieved for his treatment, maybe it is also nature's law that the whole concept of healthcare has got into a newer dimension where we have to again go back, rather than looking at the patient from a dissected angle, to a holistic and a total viewpoint where we have to see the suffering patient, not the different organs which are crumbled by disease, especially when we come to cancers, especially when we come to multiple conditions which the patient is suffering, when we know that in this era of lifestyle diseases, when we are seeing a majority of the patients not suffering from one entity but with different comorbidities. So how are we to effectively handle the suffering of the patient? It is only by treating the patient per se. So, and when we are integrating this philosophy into the philosophy of palliative care, we are going into a more broader dimension. That is where the individual not only has to be viewed, but also the relatives of the patient, his social surroundings, and even the care has to continue after the death of the patient by extending our help to his family. So now we have to look into the domain of health not as a sector totality, but from a very defined holistic viewpoint. And the patient's suffering is not just limited to his physical suffering alone, but what he suffers from his emotional side, what he suffers from his mental agonies, and what he suffers from his spiritual angle. All experiences which I have obtained from the hospital when we worked as a team. So I will go to next slide. I know for a homeopath, we need not dwell more into how the reminding of life is to be, or that life is a continuous process, or we are looking always right from the birth of an individual to the death of an individual in a continuous Harlem. So, life being a continuous process, we can always use the term continuum for life. That always comes with change. Each day could bring us ease, each day could bring us disease. When we are looking at a focal end point of a disease, or when the disease has come to a terminal stage, but we also have to understand that the patient passes through different spectrum of eases and diseases when he himself may know that he is not all right, so that only the patient can understand. But when we can't put a proper diagnosis at any given point of time, still a homeopath has the potential to treat the patient when we know that the patient is suffering. So the whole life, when viewed as a continuous process, has also is impact when we are seeing the patient from the palliative viewpoint, when we try to understand the evolution of the disease. So that is why this is a very important aspect. When we consider the patient suffering, whatever be the diagnosis or whatever stage the patient reaches us, from when the patient started his suffering, whether it was an emotional or a mental cause which has brought the pathology in opening, or whether the disease has evolved after, not only from a physical viewpoint, but whether it has got any relationship or connectivity with his emotional or mental dis-ease. So the moment he has shifted from the ease stage to the disease also has to be considered, because when we are looking at how to tackle the suffering of the patient, we know that we can only treat the patient as a whole. And so it is not from that given viewpoint that we have to consider his sickness or his disease, but also when he started to have the problem, because only then we can effectively come into a good remedy. If not, if it is an unclear picture, then we have to manage with whatever we have or whatever data we have as when we are seeing the patient at a given set point. So now we have to understand that always when we consider even a palliative patient, it is his mental, emotional, physical, psychosocial, and spiritual well-being that we are trying to regain back. And this always has its relationship with the environment. And if we are able to bring it back to a harmonious functioning, definitely we can allay his suffering to a greater extent. But if we are not able to bring him back to his proper state of health, then any state comes into the purview of palliative care. So the definition of palliative care comes not only when the patient has reached a terminal stage or terminal endpoint, but we have to start defining him right from the disease diagnosis. When he has achieved a pathology which has no turning back, which has no returning back, then at that point itself, the treatment has to be integrated from a palliative understanding. So now coming to the palliative care definition, it is definitely to improve the quality of life of patients. So it is that here the stress or the impetus has to come on the quality of life. Whatever be the pathology, whatever be the age, whatever be the stage, whatever the patient has attained at this point, the quality of life, what can be done. And here it is not just that individual that comes into the purview, the family has to be taken into consideration, and the challenges are to be considered together. Even the economic, the financial burdens and sufferings also come into purview at this point. And so, when it is associated with a life threatening illness, whether it be a physical one, whether it be a psychological one, a social, or even a spiritual one. So, our objective is always to improve the quality of life of patient with our available knowledge and how we can apply it. So, the goal of palliative care is to improve the quality of life of both the patients and the family, and how to symptomatically tackle whether it is the most distressing physical symptom, whether it is a pain factor which has to be considered, whether it is an emotional quotient which has to be considered, whether the mental state which we have to improve, and also to provide a nursing care and a psychosocial and spiritual support. That is why when we can define the goal of palliative care, we understand that it can be best administered by an interdisciplinary and a multidimensional team. So here, no single individual can effectively give the best, but every individual can do their best. But the collective best comes when we are working as a team, when it comes as a team of doctors, nurses, social workers, counselors, volunteers, and whoever can contribute into the teamwork. So, why palliative care has become such a requirement? Because, as we know, in the last 20 to 30 years, the whole health scenario of the world has changed. From infectious diseases, we have reached a stage where now we are grappling with lifestyle diseases. And along with the lifestyle diseases, we also have come to an understanding that when the quality of life cannot be improved to a certain extent, the longevity of the individuals are growing, and the the people who come under the umbrella of palliative care is increasing. So every year, when we consider the type of illnesses affecting different nations and how effectively every country can integrate their health policy into improving the state of health of the patient, now we understand that almost 50% of the population are in need of palliative care, and an estimated 40 million are in need of it. And almost 78% of them live in low and middle income countries. So, but those who require the palliative care, only for 14% of those who require are getting it. So worldwide, we have to address the remaining majority of the patients who really require a palliative care. So the global need of palliative care will again continue to grow as a result of the aging population and the rising burden of the non-communicable diseases and also the communicable diseases. So we can always, every country should come up with a policy to integrate the need of the society, the health need of the society with a policy. So that is how the government of India has drafted a palliative policy, and when Kerala becoming the first state among the other states to first effectively implement it, that is why all the, along with the non-governmental organizations, every government or hospitals had to automatically come into the purview of a palliative care. And now we have a lot of NGOs. We have all the hospitals coming under the government setup, all drafting their policies and making their needs come hand to hand with the palliative care policy. So, as we can see, the majority of the diseases, the chronic diseases, now are coming under the purview of palliative care. Cardiovascular diseases, cancer, chronic respiratory diseases, HIV, AIDS, diabetes, and also, as we know, the complications of diabetes or the complications of other lifestyle diseases, which culminate in kidney failure or chronic liver diseases or neurological issues like multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, or whether it be deformities which result from rheumatoid arthritis or accidents or trauma, then also congenital anomalies, dementias, and also many, many other drug resistant conditions, including drug resistant TB. So, palliative care is not most effective when it is integrated at the later stage or the terminal stage of the illness or the terminal stage of the patient. It is most effective when considered early in the course of the illness. And early palliative care not only improves the quality of life for patients, but also it reduces unnecessary hospitalizations and use of healthcare services. So that is one thing where we have observed during our palliative work. When we are seeing the patient and integrating our homeopathic approach, we see that those patients who have already been under conventional treatment, after integrating a homeopathic treatment for their care, the number of visits to the hospitals for a conventional treatment has drastically come down. And the unnecessary hospitalizations could be reduced when those conditions were effectively managed with our medications. So, addressing the suffering involves taking care of issues beyond the physical symptoms. So, it is here where the holistic concept has to be seen, because the suffering patient might be suffering not more from the physical illnesses but from his mental anxiety or mental issues or emotional issues, when he has an understanding that he is facing a life threatening condition. So, palliative care also uses a team approach to support patients and their caregivers. So, here we can know that when we have a patient who is completely bedridden at home, whoever is taking care of the patient or those caregivers who are completely uh, completely giving their time and energy for taking care of those patients, how do they themselves take care of their personal needs? So it is the caregiver's health which also has to be considered by the palliative team. And that is why palliative care has to be extended not just to the patients alone, but also those who are supporting the patients as their caregivers. And the practical needs when the patient is living, and also providing bereavement counseling. So that is why the services of a palliative team does not stop with the passing of the patient, but also is extended to the family even after the death as bereavement. So the basic attribute of a palliative care is a supportive care or a supportive system which is established to help the patients live as actively as possible until death. So that is why when a patient or an individual is faced with the verdict of a life-threatening illness, a palliative team always considers the option of how effectively the patient can be supported to enable him to actively go on, even in his home environment, until death. So, we always have to see how the symptoms which are most distressing to the patient can be addressed by looking into the patient as an individual and also highlighting the major distressing symptoms. So, pain, fatigue, nausea, loss of appetite, and maybe other treatment related symptoms also can come into view. We know that when the patient, especially for a cancer patient, or especially for patients who are undergoing dialysis or other conditions which also require a multidisciplinary approach, when they are facing with the treatment related symptoms, what homeopathy can do, it also has to be considered. So the symptom management always has to highlight the significance of taking into consideration the comfort, dignity, and hope for the patients and their families. So, the treatment of depression and anxiety, also the end of life care is given very much importance in palliative care. So, there is always a popular belief that palliative care is only for cancers. That is a wrong belief. It is not just for patients with terminal cancers alone, but any conditions which are irreversible, which are uncurable. So, the goal of the palliative care is to provide the best possible quality of life at every stage of treatment, right from the diagnosis, and giving a supportive care, or when the patient per se cannot be improved beyond a certain limit, how to control the symptoms, how to manage the most distressing symptoms. That has to be effectively approached. So, the need of the hour is now an integrated approach. So when we are seeing a patient with morphine, or who have optimized their pain medications, is there an alternative? Now we have to think from a homeopath's point, what best can we give to this patient? And if it is a condition which involves long-term care, how is the economical viability be possible for such a patient, given their economical background? And now, when the patient is having multiple morbidities, whether the care has to go for the person or the disease, whether all the different comorbid conditions are to be separately treated, or whether the patient can be single handedly treated. And when we are reaching the end of life care, where should the patient be treated? Whether the patient has to always be in an intensive care unit, or whether the patient has the choice to be among the family and among the people who love him, or whether he prefers to die in an environment which he finds very safe, and a place where he can have a calm living. So the care setting of the patient is very important, and the whole decision is now rested upon the patient. The patient has a choice in palliative care. It is not the physician who decides whether the patient has to be in an ICU, in an hospital, or whether a patient has to be in a hospital setting, but whether the patient can be managed effectively even in his home. And this is also a place where we can always address the patient's mental and emotional needs equally, along with the physical requirements. So, psychophysical integration, how can it be addressed, and how best homeopathy can do it? And when we are meeting a patient where the conventional treatment is deferred, if they have a verdict that they can do nothing for the patient anymore, what next? So, from it is many of our patients come into our hospitals when all the hope is given up by the conventional treatments, or whether the or after that treatment is deferred. So when we effectively manage the cases, it is also highlighting the importance of homeopathy, what homeopathy can do when the conventional treatment is deferred. So interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary integration is always to be given, is always an option to be provided to the patient. And what homeopathy can offer? So as we know, the physical symptoms, the mental and emotional symptoms are given equal importance by the patient. And also, when we consider the caregivers' uh, problems, the whole family also comes into the domain of what homeopathy can offer. So the physical pain, the discomforts, his anxieties, his mental emotional needs, along with how his quality of life can be improved, what can be done to the life expectancy, and how the disease burden can be tackled from the physical, emotional, and mental purview, and also what can be done to improve the economic burden. As we know, in long term care, homeopathy has a very effective management strategy when the economic burden can be much reduced when a homeopathic treatment is offered to them. So the possibilities of homeopathic interventions are the arrest of the evolution of a disease. If the patient has reached a point when no curative treatment can be offered, at least what can be done to arrest the speedy progression of the disease, or whether the evolution of the disease can be made to go at a slower pace, and how the manifested symptoms can be treated, and how the life threatening conditions can be anticipated, and the precautions can be taken. As we know, homeopathy always offers to the physician the possibility of foreseeing the conditions or the terminal stage this patient is going to reach. So we can always predict the outcome if we have a proper understanding of the patient and a proper understanding of the miasmatic evolutions. So the life threatening condition can be anticipated and the precautions can be taken properly. And how can we address the life threatening conditions even in our setting? And the probable complications which can be anticipated can be effectively blocked. So, the end stage of a lifestyle disease can be viewed from a palliative point, giving so much relief to the patient and the family. And in our department, the Department of Homeopathy offers the services through outpatient services, through IP facility inpatients. Uh, when every hospital has got a facility and 5 beds are always given to a palliative patient. Then at the home care setting also, because those patients who can't approach the hospital, the team goes to their home, takes care of the needs of the patient, and based on how frequently the patient has to be seen, the team visits them. So the service delivery is in 3 levels: in the OP setting, in the IP, and in home care. Also, we have options to make donations of equipments wherever is required, and also making the public sensitized about the delivery of services through awareness programs, through medical camps, and also not just by leaving the patient's family alone after the patient's death, but continuing to offer the service through bereavement support. So all these are the delivery of services. So here you can see this is the palliative care ward of Trivandrum, the government hospital at Trivandrum. In Trivandrum, there are 8 beds in our IP, and these are the few examples of the home care services when the team visits the patient at their home. So these patients, as we can see, can't be brought to any hospital. They are so sick and bedridden. So the team visits the doctor and the nurses. The trained palliative nurse along with the trained doctor visits them, and there is a continuing medical education given to all the staff, not only to the doctors but all the staff who are sensitized about the palliative care which is offered. So that is why every worker in the hospital is part of the team, because the services need to be offered at every given point, not just during a few hours of the hospital services. And the training is always to sensitize how a palliative patient differs from the other patients. So for people who require wheelchair, who require walker. So it could be sometimes a diaper. So since the patients always come from a very low socioeconomic strata, even other departments always work together by providing a link as to where the services are required. So this is an example where the police department is also joining hands with the Department of Homeopathy to give services and support and equipments by identifying those needy people. So the now coming to the aim and objective of the project, it is to address the pain and most distressing symptoms of palliative patients. It is to improve the quality of life of terminally ill patient and incorporating homeopathic intervention in pain and palliative care, and highlighting the concepts of holistic care, supporting the end of life care, and ensuring a cost effective long term treatment. That is very important. And also, sensitizing the public is very important. Why? Because the public has to come up with the need that homeopathy can have a solution, can offer a solution to them. So it is when the demand comes from the public that the project can always grow, and that is how we can bring the people or the larger part of the society into the umbrella of a palliative care setting. So the sensitization of the public is always very important, along with offering the services to the patient. So these are the aims and objectives of the project. So the outcome in palliative care, it is to improve the quality of life. How can we do that? When the option is to optimize the health with multiple drugs, a lot of number of drugs, our option is always to improve the quality of life with minimum drugs, and to improve the physiological functions. And homeopathy has always got an advantage that it can be added to the conventional treatments. And we also have a very effective intervention, seeing when the side effects of chemoradiation can be effectively handled, and how to improve the general vitality of the patient, the fatigue, and whatever very distressing symptoms that the patient is having at that given viewpoint, that also can be very greatly improved by a homeopathic intervention. And effective pain management is also a very important arena where homeopathy can show its effectiveness. Even we have patients who have been on optimum morphine. After adding on homeopathic medications, the patients are able to taper down their dependency on morphine, and are also able to withdraw the even morphine tablets. So the thrust areas of palliation by homeopathy, which areas can we really focus on? We can focus on those patients with inoperable tumors. That is where we do have a lot of brain tumor cases, and tumor cases where surgery can't be effectively done, or when the patient will result in serious health conditions after a surgical intervention. So the patients with inoperable tumors, and also relapsing cases of cancer in spite of conventional treatment. So when the cases relapse, and when they find that maybe also by integrating homeopathy, uh, the relapses can be effectively managed. And also those hematological malignancies which are deferred by conventional treatment, and the neurological cases with a disability, the geriatric palliative patients. So this is one domain where a geriatric care and a palliative care can be very beautifully integrated. So, and also the highlight, or another highlight of homeopathy is always in those cases where a physical, emotional, and a psychosocial integration has to be done in every case. So as we know, when we are always managing a case of either a chronic case or a terminal case, when the patient realizes that there is no absolute cure, or it is always a deterioration that the patient has to face, always the emotional what the emotional need the patient has to be effectively tackled. So